this is pretty much how I feel at the moment. Hey everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads, and welcome back to my channel. Apologies for not having any videos up this week. Yes, this week, because it's still Sunday. Just a lot going on at the moment, and not really a reason for it other than I didn't feel like recording something and being all cheery in front of the camera. You know, there are times like that, which is totally fine, but it gave me time to read more books, and that's what I'm here to talk about today, because it's bi-weekly book ramblings time. My weird reading slump that I had in January, where I read literally only 4 books, seems to be over, because so far I've already finished 4 books in February, and I'm in the middle of 2 more. Alright, since the last time we talked, I finished The Girl in the Tower, which is book 2 in the Winter Night trilogy, and it turned around at the end. I had some issues at the beginning. It was a bit too slow for me. It was not that fairy tale that I experienced in book 1 anymore. It was a much bigger world, and it felt more like a regular fantasy, not like a fairy tale anymore. And I did not quite enjoy the way this was going. There were some characters that I was kind of meh about. But closer to the end, like the last third, it really picked up again, and I started to see things coming together and actually really enjoying it, which then made me excited for book 3 again. And book 3 is waiting for me this month as well, so I'm actually excited to really close this out. Another book that I finished since the last time we talked is this HBR's 2022 10 must-reads, whatever. If you've never seen them, Harvard Business Review, which is what HBR stands for, brings out those little books, which is basically a summary of some of their articles that you can also read on their website. If you have a subscription, these usually don't make any sense because you get all of these articles for free on their website. And there were some really interesting articles in here. Overall, I think half of the articles I really enjoyed. And the other half were either there was one where just the topic was not interesting for me, and some others were interesting, but not completely wowed me, or it was nothing really new for me. If it's interesting to you, there are some great articles around diversity and inclusion and building trust and those type of things in here, and those are the ones that I enjoyed the most. It was just a fun read on the side. I like this concept that you have. It's like an anthology, if you will, of business-related articles. That's what I've finished since last time. Now let's get to the books that I've read since then, started and finished since then. Oh, whatever. It's going great already. And the first one was Stephen King's Roadwork, which was a 5-star read for me. This was part of Jake's and my buddy read of all the Richard Bachman books. This was book 2, and that was the first time that I read it. And I am amazed with this book. It was so good. It's essentially a big character study about someone with multiple personality disorder. At least I think that's what it is that he's going through, and how he slowly sinks deeper and deeper into this situation because he wants to protect his home at the end of the day. It is just so incredible how Stephen King is in his head and how he's showing us what he's going through and just everything. And that's what I love about King. Those are the books. That's what I loved about The Long Walk, right? But those are the books that I truly enjoy by King. I'm not a huge fan, or I've never read anything because I think I would be totally scared anything of his typical horror type style. But these psychological thrillers is, for me, the closest that I'm coming to describing these books. That's what I love. And that's where I think Stephen King is really exceptional. Like this being in people's head, showing where their craziness comes from in this regards, right? Where their worries come from, why they turned the way they did. And it's so incredible. And Roadwork is phenomenal in that regards. I devoured this book. I ate it up and I gave it 5 stars. Man, I'm so glad that I read this. And by the way, Jake, thanks for gifting me this one. The next one that I read, it's called The World Maker Parable, I think is how you say that, by Luke Tarzian, which is a self-published book, and it's actually a novella. It's like 100 and a little bit pages. And I did not expect this. First of all, you can get the book free if you subscribe to his newsletter, and it is just different. I did not expect to read what I read, and I think in my in one of my reviews, I said it feels like a fever dream because it does. So first of all, the writing is phenomenal. Luke really knows the English language, and he uses words in a way that it's nearly poetic, but not flowery. You know, it's not this literary type, if that makes any sense. But it's incredible how he plays with words to tell the story that he is telling. That's number one. Two is, so this book is essentially a bunch of dreams mingled together. And it's not just dreams, it's also time jumps. There's a lot of characters that you get to meet. And only to the end of the 100 pages, you're starting to realize how they are all connected. I was sitting there, it's like, what in the world is going on here? But once I started to see all of these threads coming together and what it actually meant, I was blown away by it. And I've never read something like this. It is incredible. It's so ambitious, and it's such a vast world without a whole bunch of description. I have no idea if that makes any sense. I highly recommend that you go to his newsletter and just download that book, because book 2, which is The World Breaker Requiem, is his actual novella. It's book 2 in the adjacent monster series. So World Maker Parable is book 1 in that series, and World Breaker Requiem is book 2. And I'm actually currently reading, so going to the next book, that's what I'm currently reading, is book 2, and it continues even further. It's different main characters that you're following here, but it's the same writing style. It's this mix of jumping through timelines and how all of these timelines are connected, and then explaining parts of the stories through those timeline jumps, but then also through dreams. It's a big part of the story. And it's just, let's say it that way. If you read things like The Darkness That Comes Before and liked it because of its ambitiousness, not necessarily because of the plot, because that is very different in Luke Tarzian's books, has nothing to do, not even closely to be similar. But that ambitiousness of the book and the big writing, although The Darkness That Comes Before is a little more it's a lot more flowery in that regards, but it has a certain ambitiousness, is this even a word, in it, that Luke Tarzian was able to capture. And I couldn't even tell you what type of fantasy it would fit into, because I truly have no idea. It feels like he really came up with something unique, something that has never been done before, and that just keeps you on your toes. And while both books are short, again, the novella is around 100 pages, his novel is a bit more than 200 pages, it takes you a bit to read those. So it sounds like a quick read, it really isn't. At least from my side, I cannot sit down and read the whole thing in one sitting. I need breaks between those, which is why I'm currently reading The Worldbreaker Requiem at the same time as I read 2 other books that I will talk about in a minute. He has really done something incredible that, yeah, just go check it out. It is amazing. And then we're getting into February She Wrote. So one book that I already finished. I know I'm jumping a little bit between still reading and already finished. But one book that I already finished by a female author is Dead Rockstar by Lila Lawson, which I think, by the way, is an awesome name. If that is not a pen name and that's your real name, girl, you hit the jackpot. But that's an urban fantasy mixed with romance, mixed with a little bit mystery. And I stumbled over that similarly to The Worldbreaker Requiem, because the publisher actually reached out and asked if I want to join the book tour for book 2 of the series. And I was like, well, I haven't even read book 1, so I cannot talk about a book 2 if I haven't even read book 1. Can you send that to me? And they did. And I'm so excited they did, because that was the perfect balance for The Worldbreaker Requiem, because it's great entertainment. Dead Rockstar is, as I said, urban fantasy, and it's about a woman in her mid-30s that is about to get a divorce. She kicked out her husband because he's just a douchebag. Her life is kind of all messed up. So she lives in her trailer home, she works at the library, she doesn't really have the money to do anything about it. And instead of actually, getting her life together, she sits in her trailer every night, drinks a lot of wine, and gets an earful from her best friend about how messed up her life is. And then one night, she kind of decides, you know what? I'm bringing my favorite rockstar back to life, because he died and he left a spell to resurrect him in one of his LPs. And I'm just doing this now. I'm testing this spell. And, well, it worked. And the next day, he's standing in front of her door, all, 6'4" of, rock star from the 80s. who was also in his mid-30s. And it was hilarious. I'm telling you, I had so much fun reading this book. First of all, it's amazing chemistry between the two. I thought the way Layla Lawson wrote their relationship was just fantastic. And I loved the pining and, you know, just what they felt for each other and what they went through and their thought process and everything. But I also liked the story, since she is a witch, right? She resurrected him, or necromancer, however you want to call it. She has magical abilities, and figuring out where this is coming from and why she is all of a sudden hunted by random people that she's never met. And all of a sudden they push her from the street, so she runs into an accident and all sorts of things. So there's a lot of stuff happening, but it's a really quick read. It's great entertainment. I love the main character. It was really a wild ride. And I'm really excited about reading book 2 now that I already have a early access copy from as well. So thanks so much for Parliament Books, the publisher, and Layla Lawson for gifting me those. And yeah, if you're looking for something urban fantasy, it reminds me a little bit of, if you've read Kelly Armstrong's, like the Bitten series, or Kim Harrison's Rachel Morgan series. It has similar flavors of that. And then the last book that I want to talk about is Kristen Britton's First Writer's Call, which is book 2 in the Green Writer series. And I'm actually listening to this as audiobook. I don't know, this is not even true. I don't know if I'm at that point right now. I actually think it might be pretty close to where I'm at. But I'm listening to this as an audiobook. This is part of our Green Writer read-along. We are reading book 2 right now. Well, some already started, some already finished, some are still in the middle of it, and some plan to read it a little bit later in the month. Again, there is no rush, right? Everybody reads on their own pace. But again, great conversations happening in the Discord. So if you haven't joined yet, there's still time. Green Writer is really a fast read, so there's still time to join us. And there are still comments even happening in earlier books. There are already comments happening in later books, right? So as I said, everybody's reading in their own pace, and it's just a good time. We're all really enjoying, well, most of us enjoy the book really well, which is super exciting. That's what I've read. I think I've talked pretty fast through this book, so God, I'm sorry. What I'm planning next, I honestly have no idea. I'm liking this kind of being in the flow right now and grabbing something as I'm going along. I still want to read the books that I put on my February TBR. So I still want to read book 3 in the Winter Night trilogy. I still want to read The Push with Stacy. But besides that, I'm trying to stay really open and flexible to, you know, what it is that I'm picking up. Also, from a video perspective, I probably will take a step back and not upload 2.5 videos per week on average. So I hope you're okay with that. And then eventually I'll get back to normal. So I'm not worried about it at all. What have you been reading over the last 2 weeks? What are you planning on picking up next? I'm super excited to hear. Let me know down in the comments. And then I'll hope I see you soon. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye!